Hello, I'm Ollie and this is CriminOlly, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, vintage crime, classic horror, a little bit of sci-fi and a surprising DNF. It's my weekly wrap-up. So normal format for today's video, apart of course from the fact that it's going up on the wrong day. So I normally put these weekly wrap-ups up on a Saturday, but I've been part of another collaboration, and the video for that will have gone up on Saturday. So if you tuned in yesterday to watch my weekly wrap-up and saw my video where I talk about What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher instead, hopefully you enjoyed it. But yeah, that's the reason why everyone's coordinated their videos going up in the way we tend to do with these collabs. So I had to bump out the weekly wrap-up to today. But anyway, I will talk to you now about what I've been reading, what I'm reading at the moment, and then just let you know what's been on the channel and what's coming up. In terms of kind of stats and things like that then, so I finished 5 books this week and DNF'd 1. And in terms of looking at my kind of challenges I've set myself, so my Read What You Own challenge, I've now finished 91 books of that. So the end is very much in sight. Hopefully I will finish that. Well, I'll certainly finish it in April. Hopefully I'll finish it by within the next couple of weeks, I would have thought. And then my 50 books to read before I'm 50, I've read 32 of those now. So I've got 18 left. So I might do it. I might do it. We'll see. We shall see. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna try, and I have got a bit of time off work this month as well, so that should help. So in terms of what I've read then, so I think when I filmed this last week, I was reading Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson, which I finished, which I really enjoyed. So I've done a video review of that, which is up on the channel. So a really interesting early 90s sci-fi novel about kind of virtual reality and that kind of thing. I had a lot of fun with it. It's not without its flaws, and it does get bogged down in detail a bit in the middle. But overall, I thought it was a really interesting and enjoyable read. Some great kind of set-piece action sequences and some fantastic ideas as well. So yeah, a lot going on. Right, let's talk about the DNF next. Let's get that out of the way. So the DNF was this book, Songs of a Dead Dreamer by Thomas Ligotti, which I was really expecting to like a lot because it's got such a great reputation. And I did really enjoy it. Like the first story in particular, I thought was excellent. But because it's a collection of short stories, I've kind of been putting it down between stories and reading other things. And I've found my motivation to go back to it has got less and less and less over time. So I'm not sure if it's truly a DNF or if it's just I'm going to go back to it at some point in the future. But I've got a little over halfway through. And yeah, whilst there's a real richness and he's definitely got an incredible imagination and the stories I enjoyed were deeply, deeply creepy, there's something about his writing style which I find slightly impenetrable and that I'm struggling to engage with. So it's a book that feels like hard work. And sometimes you're in the right mood for a book that feels like hard work, but at the moment I'm not. So I'm putting this one aside for now. I'm not counting it towards my 100 book challenge, but I am counting it as a success in my 50 before 50 list. Because for those books, I don't necessarily need to finish them. I wanted to try them to see if I like them. Right, other stuff I've read then. Let's get another physical book out of the way then. So I read Beast in View by Margaret Miller from this Library of America Women Crime Writers collection. It was really good. So it's quite complicated to explain what's going on, but basically it's about a woman who makes what do you call them? Like the telephone equivalent of a poison pen letter, like nuisance calls to people, and tells them secrets about people in their lives to kind of cause trouble basically. So it's got a really interesting start, and the tension in it just ramps up, and you gradually learn more about this wider cast of characters and start putting the pieces together into your head as to what's going on and what this woman's motivation is. So yeah, I thought it was a really enjoyable vintage read. It's definitely got kind of a vintage vibe to it. I'm not sure. I guess it came out in the Are these all from the 50s? Yes, it came out in the 50s, and it definitely feels like a 50s book. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. So next up is a short story, The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman, which I've been meaning to read for ages. And it's kind of a difficult book to talk too much about without spoiling it. But it was amazing. It was incredibly good. So it was published in 1892, but it feels really, really modern. And it's told from the perspective of this woman who's staying with her husband in this big house. And he constantly tries to, kind of keep her out of the way and get her to rest and things like that. And she's a kind of a nervous person, a nervous individual, and has all these, kind of conditions. But you never really know how many of them are real and how many are imagined, and indeed how many of them her husband is kind of making her imagine she has. And there's very strange stuff going on in this room where she's staying, involving the yellow wallpaper. But again, you don't really know how much is imagined and how much is real. So I just thought it was a really fantastic story, really cleverly written, really engaging, incredibly readable. But yeah, just fantastic. I thoroughly recommend it. It's in the public domain, so you get it for free. Just read it. It's only about 30 pages long. After that, I read Rosanna by Marge Chauvel and Per Wahlöö, two Swedish writers. So this is the first of the Martin Beck series of books, and a kind of foundational book in Scandinavian noir fiction. So published in the mid-60s, and just a really enjoyable kind of police procedural type book. So about this detective Martin Beck, who's investigating the death of a young woman. So her body's been found kind of in the countryside, and a large part of the book is him trying to figure out who she even is, because there's no way to identify her. And then once they have figured out who she is, trying to figure out how she died and who killed her. It's just a really solid mystery, and has a really nice kind of 60s. It didn't feel terribly 60s. You could have believed it was written in like the 70s or even the 80s, to be honest with you. But definitely has a nice sense of place in terms of its kind of its Swedish setting. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed it, and looking forward to reading more in that series. And then read something slightly different, but equally enjoyable and readable, and that was The Quiet American by Graham Greene. So a book set in Vietnam, right at the start of the Vietnam War, and when I started reading it, I kind of thought it was set before the Vietnam War, but actually it was published in 1955, and the Vietnam War started in 1955. So I think, or I believe it did anyway, so I think we think of Vietnam as being very, very much a 60s war, and I think the American involvement in it, and troops going there, ramped up in the 60s. But the actual origins of the conflict were in the 50s. So this is about an English guy who is working as a journalist over there, who gets involved with this American who's kind of involved in kind of the American Secret Service, and it's about them and both of their relationship with a single Vietnamese woman, and just fantastic. Really, it's so atmospheric, so well written, great characters, but really it was that sense of place that was fantastic. You really felt like you were there. So yeah, I enjoyed that a hell of a lot. And I'm now reading another classic, The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck, which I'm a little over a third of the way through. So again, I'm really enjoying this. Just that the sense of place and the sense of desperation of these poor people trying to find a better life for themselves is just fantastic. Wonderful dialogue, wonderful like situations and things like that. The situations they find themselves in, particularly where there are like just small kindnesses between strangers, I'm finding really, really moving. So yeah, I'm enjoying it a hell of a lot so far. I can't really believe it's taken me this long to read it. I've read a few other things by Steinbeck, but yeah, this is just phenomenal. Really, really good. And in terms of what I will be reading once I've finished that, I think I'm going to read Transmuted by Eve Harms, which is the book choice of my Patreon book club this month. So I think I might try and read that this weekend as well, whether I finish Grapes of Wrath or not, because it's quite short. transmuted, so I might try and fit that in. And then after that, I'm not sure. I've got a ton of stuff to read. So yeah, I'm looking forward to picking something from my TBR. I like being at the start of the month when I've got lots of things in my TBR to choose from. So maybe I'll try some David Goodis next or something like that. I fancy, I'm in quite a kind of crime reading mood at the moment. So in terms of channel stuff then, as I've already said, yesterday you had my video about the book What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher, so part of a collaboration with other booktubers talking about books that have been heavily hyped on BookTube and seeing what we thought of them. You've also had my April TBR video, so talking about all the books I'm going to be reading in April. You've had a couple of reviews, so Snow Crash by Neil Stevenson and Cunning Folk by Adam Neville. I did the London BookTube tag, so lots of people were asking me to talk about books from London, so I did that tag, and I did a video about kind of plans for the channel after the next couple of months or so. So if any of those take your fancy and you haven't watched them yet, have a look through the videos page on my channel and you should find them all. In terms of stuff coming up in the week ahead then, so I'm going to do my March wrap-up video, which go up on Monday, where I talk about all the books I've read in March and rank those in order of how much I enjoyed them. I'm going to do the Q1 tag, which is kind of a bit of a BookTube tradition where you talk about the books you've read in the first quarter of the year and just kind of reflect on that. I'm going to do, I think, a kind of double header review of 2 vintage horror novels, one about killer cats and one about killer dogs. And then I'm also going to do a review of the book Suicide Forest by Jeremy Bates, which I read a little while ago. And then I'm also planning to do, if I manage to find time to do it, my video where I talk about horror books from the 80s that were really 80s, so the follow-up to my 70s one. So if any of those take your fancy, look out for them in the coming week. You could even hit the subscribe button if you're not a subscriber already. I never say this stuff, and you're supposed to if you're on BookTube or YouTube even. So yeah, subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and hit the notification button or bell, and you will get notified about my videos as they go up, so you won't miss any. So other stuff to talk about quickly today then. So I normally do like a mini book haul at the end of these videos, and I have indeed got 4 books to talk about today. So a couple that have been sent to me by the authors, so let's do those first. So I've got The Satirist by Caleb Bouchard. So Caleb briefly had a YouTube channel, which was really fantastic, but I think he just hasn't got time to keep it going. So so that's gone now. So this is a book of prose poems, so almost like flash fiction, I guess. So I'm looking forward to giving this a try. I've also been sent this book, Sleeping Among God, I can't talk. Sleeping Among Wolves by Robert Royal Poff. So I reviewed one of Robert's short story collections a little while ago on the channel, which I liked a lot. So this is a novella. So yeah, looking forward to this. I do think it's got a fantastic cover as well. And then also got sent very kindly by Duncan McCurdy, who's got a BookTube channel. I will link him in the description. He sent me a couple of lovely paperbacks. So this one, I think he did like a competition on his channel for, and I won, but he threw another one in as well. So this is Casca Book 5, The Barbarian by Barry Sadler. So in February, I read the first of the Casca books, or was it the second? No, I read the second of the Casca books, didn't I? And really enjoyed it. So I've got this one, I've got another one as well, but they're all kind of out of order in the series. But I think I'll just read them anyway, rather than trying to buy the ones I'm missing. So yeah, looking forward to that. And then also this, The Bog by Michael Talbot, which is a kind of classic 80s horror novel with a fantastic step back cover. So look, you can see the eye there. And when you open it up, she's got a creepy face. Oh, the bookmark's just fallen out of the book. So yeah, so this looks really good as well. So thank you very much for these, Duncan. And Duncan also sent me a weird Canadian chocolate bar, which I was thinking I might eat on camera, but I don't know. I don't know if I'm in the mood for it right now. So this is a Nestle Coffee Crisp. So we have Toffee Crisp over here. So I don't know if it's similar to a Toffee Crisp, but with a coffee flavour. So yeah, I'm very interested to see what that likes and what that is like, and I will report back once I eat it. Okay, time for a random book from the shelves. So a thriller for you today, Anthrax Island by D.L. Marshall, which is a really enjoyable mix of kind of like Alistair MacLean style action adventure stuff, and it's got a locked room mystery in it as well. So really interesting and enjoyable thriller about a guy who's sent to this remote island where like all these kind of biological warfare experiments have taken place to investigate an unexplained death there. So yeah, really, really good fun. So I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know what you're reading this week. Let me know if you've read any of the books I talked about. And as always, thanks very much for watching. I hope you're safe and well out there. I hope you're reading good stuff, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.